we, like, in the process of becoming and unlearning all these like fake maladaptive, obedience driven, control driven things we've been taught. It is important to recognize that just because someone bastardized a thing for their own gain does not mean that the thing itself is wrong. And just because we learned a lot of those methodologies and were punitive to ourselves and to people we were in relationships with or people we are in relationships with, does not mean it needs to keep going that way. And it also doesn't mean that anger in and of itself is wrong, because it's just an emotion and it's information. It's telling us something is not.
Welcome to Rich Queer Aunties, the podcast where relational skills meets radical truth.
We're your hosts, Christabel and Kachi, partners in life, in healing, and in calling things what they are.
Around here, we believe that liberation lives in how we show up for ourselves and each other.
Every episode, we get honest about conflict, care, culture, and connection, especially for those of us navigating life at the intersections of Blackness, queerness, and diaspora.
So take a breath. You're in good company. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to Rich Queer Aunties. So we're talking about love and rage, what we inherited and what we're choosing. I recently did a whole series on Instagram where I was talking about how to allow our rage to show up in relationships without being scared of it, and others not being scared when they see rage show up in their relationships with people. And we thought it was a topic we needed to bring to the podcast.
We don't have a lot of practice, whereas rage has turned from that one experience into a repair experience. I think sometimes rage only looks like once it happens, there's like this huge animosity and we can never confront that again. And it feels as though things have ended and that there's no love on the other side.
Because I don't think we ever saw it practiced. As someone who grew up in an African household where it seemed as though the access to anger was always much easier than the access to love, or at least the expression of love. We saw anger expressed, but we never saw love expressed. There are people who say that it's not our custom to say I love you to your children. But why is it our custom to say you are stupid?
Or you should burn in hellfire.
Exactly. We come to accept that we can be told that we are goats and stupid and called all these names, but then we are not supposed to be told we're loved. We're supposed to surmise that we're loved because our school fees is paid. So that's the conversation. And I think that's why a lot of us feel really uncomfortable when we realize that we took on that same propensity towards anger and we carry it forth in our relationships. It's just not talked about. It's like hush hush.
I feel like what happens on the end of rage is obedience and submission and silence. And that's what I've experienced growing up in an African family. Although love was always there, it was like, I'm doing this because I love you. I'm angry at you because I want you to obey me. I want to protect you. I want to keep you safe. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. But then creating that evil that they are so afraid of seeing out into the world. And I don't think they know they're doing it, like internalizing that fear.
Would rather bully you than let other people bully you.
Exactly. But then you go into the world then bullying yourself and other people. There's never a call to yourself to say, is this rage truly there for a change? Is it there because love also exists as well? Or is it there in the midst of fear and no accountability, no repair? It's always like rage is the first feeling that happens, but it's covering something deeper, something more painful. And I don't think that part gets discussed a lot, you know?
No, for real. That resonates with me so much. So then I have a question for you. How did you first experience rage in your household?
It came from my dad. because he had more access to it. And it was always at the mercy of whoever misbehaved. I was just very curious about life, and I always challenged things. I was my truest self. I was my most expressive self. And I think sometimes people get afraid, especially my dad. I just knew that he had more access to caution me when I did something, when I didn't want to wear a dress, go to school on time or wake up on time, do my homework. When I was talking back, when I didn't agree with him, he would yell at me, he would beat me, he would assert his dominance than trying to understand exactly where I'm coming from, because I had my own deep wisdom about who I was. And it made him feel uncomfortable, and that discomfort inside of him, he didn't have the capacity to sit with there. So then he would yell at me to stop it, to stop what was happening, and then to like silence or shut down whatever was happening. And I knew that he noticed that I wasn't moldable, I wasn't someone that you can control. And I knew within myself that I was already becoming very interested in girls and the part of the world that no one talks about, the sensual self, the spiritual self, the one that's not controlled by religion or by people or culture, that I knew more about the world and about myself, and I wasn't afraid to express it. And I think that expressing scared him a lot.
Yeah.
So rage seems to come from a place of fear, and it was like really scary. But not scary enough to not make me be who I was.
I was gonna say, because my introduction to rage and anger was my mom. My mom found herself a single parent. She did not choose that for herself. I don't think that's what she saw for herself. She married my dad. My dad had courted her for 7 or 8 years and persistently pursued her. And she had said no to him because she wanted to finish school. So when she graduated, she became a teacher. That's when she married him. And my dad waited all those years. So I think she thought it was this romantic thing. Like that's how she wanted to raise her children. And then she enters the marriage, and my dad was incredibly abusive to her. She had a couple of miscarriages, and then she's like, I am not going to endure this. I am going to remove myself and my children from this abusive situation. But what ended up happening is that it hardened her, at least the way I witnessed it. It hardened her to the softer, romantic parts of life. But I don't think it was also just that experience. I think it was also her upbringing. She was in service from when she was like 12 years old. So she has lived a really hard life, and it informed the way she approached raising me. And I know this a little bit from conversations I've had with her now that I'm older. She thought that by exerting dominance over me, she was going to protect me. She would be able to shield me from the things that she had been through.
So exposing you to that is, in their logic, protecting you from the world.
Essentially, it builds character. I will be strong enough to leave, like she left, if I was ever in that situation, right? I wouldn't be so soft.
I think that's the same way my parents wanted to raise us, so that we won't be so soft.
Yes.
But then look at me, I'm so sensitive to the world. I just did not internalize whatever they were trying to give me.
But you also have to realize there's a little context here. Both of us were raised by parents who are the first generation emerging from a genocide of the Igbo people. Right? They lost family members. My mom lost her elder brother, my grandmother's oldest son, died in the Biafran War. So these are people emerging from a genocide, and they are raising their children with so much fear. And I believe that's what the rage and the anger covered, the fear.
Yes.
They were filled with so much fear that they thought that exerting dominance in the household was going to somehow train us to be able to withstand a world that they've experienced that's really harsh
and really harmful. Yes, I see the logic.
The logic
But they
is
also-
logicking,
They
but
fuse fear and love together. It's like, with this hand I'm feeding you, with this hand I'm slapping you.
yes.
You know,
Because
so that you
we
can
were
just
taken care of.
be molded.
And that's what they would tell us.
Yeah.
If we didn't love you,
Yeah,
would
we
we
would-
be paying your school fees?
That's true.
Did you not go to private school from the time you were born?
Exactly.
Did you not have 3 square meals?
Did you not have a roof over your head?
Did you not have a roof
Did I
over
not
your
carry
head?
you in my stomach for 9
For
months?
9 months. Did I abort you? Don't you see your mates out there who have nobody looking after them?
That's true that we should be grateful, because look at other people out there who their parents have left,
Yes.
who are now raising themselves, and how far have they gone? So we should be happy.
So it's like a systemic pain
Yeah.
that is brought into the household. It's a colonized way of thinking that is brought into how they raise their children, how they raised us. But fortunately for us, we are part of a generation where we have access to different knowledge. We have access to information, and we have access to remembering
Yeah.
our ancestral knowing that children were revered.
Yeah.
Children were essentially worshipped and seen as closer to the gods. Children were listened to. So now, when we remember that, I'm trying to reclaim parts of myself that has been splintered, because the example I saw of how to become was from people who were splintered and lived in that splintered state.
Yeah. That's like when you don't have access to your homeland, but your access has been removed, and now you're left with the scraps, and you have to build on top of that while still grieving. There was a time when I was 3 to 5 years old, living in Nigeria. My fondest memories would be of my parents arriving, walking to the house with their luggages and gifts, and just all this bountiful, like, love. You know, there was something rich about it and something so precious. And when I saw them living in America, I felt like it was a different side of stress and anger. That there is a difference with what having access to land does to you. Like, even though you're stressed and you're grieving, you can still hold on to
At least
your
you're on
love.
your ancestral land.
Yes,
or, you know.
yeah, because their love was not painful when they visited us. After we moved back to the US, I noticed a certain kind of structure that was not inherent to how they wanted to raise us. It was like, we have to raise you this way because we're in a foreign land.
Yeah.
And there's so much that we cannot control.
I hear that. The ways they were teaching us collectivism and what they were trying to say existed did not exist. And that is the long-standing effect of colonialism, even on the continent. Like growing up in Ghana, growing up in Nigeria, it was our ancestral lands. The cousins were there, the uncles were there, the aunties were there, but there was so much family strife because the advent of the white man on our lands, Africans being kidnapped and sold during the transatlantic slave trade, changed something. And this generation, we're trying to reclaim it. But I don't think the full reclamation will come for many more generations to come. But at least we're beginning that work of saying, who were we before these people came? Because
I feel like it still ties into what I was saying with access to land. Colonialism removed our access to land, which caused this additional pain and grief that we are experiencing.
I guess metaphorically, people who are listening to this, some people might say, we have the physical access to land. And our mothers beat us every day of our childhood. So yes, it all ties in together, both physically and metaphorically. The parts of them that came out in America differed from the parts of them that came out in Nigeria. And I say that's true. Absolutely. Because the closer you are to the land, the less anxiety. But if the land is the only reality you've known, that anxiety still persists.
I see what you mean.
So I think both definitely goes hand in hand, because I grew up in Africa. I didn't leave till I was 18, and then again when I was 21. And it was still that same fear that existed. But then with my mom, you're dealing with patriarchy, religious indoctrination. She didn't want me to get pregnant. She didn't want me to be out here on these streets doing God knows what. But the thing is, it did not protect me. I did get pregnant as a teenager. When the abortion came to be, she didn't know of it. So I did do all these things that she thought she was protecting me from by being my bully, essentially. But the thing is, her being that way towards me is what drove me to seek love elsewhere, to seek tenderness elsewhere. Because I never forgot that I deserved tenderness. I craved it. And I was in touch with that longing from very early on. So I would seek that from other people, usually like boys and such.
Yeah, I agree with looking for that tenderness elsewhere, because that's what drove me to feel loved and accepted and seen by other people and feel validated for who I was. Because my parents weren't the safest people to talk about my relationships, even my interest in girls. They weren't a safe place to talk about it. The talk that my mother would give me about boys was to show me this medical book with STDs. And she said, if you have sex, you can wind up pregnant or getting these multitude of STDs. And the worst of it all, HIV/AIDS. That's where she ended the chapter on relationships and sex. Don't have sex before marriage. Only have sex after you get married. And only have sex to have children. Only have sex with your husband. Wait for marriage. You should be a virgin until you get married. You have to ascribe to be a virgin, which these things that they ever tell their children,
They didn't do it.
they didn't do it.
Fucking hypocrites.
They tell on themselves, and the children end up doing the exact same thing that they're cautioning them away from.
Yeah.
Rather than witnessing themselves being a human being and making human decisions as an adult, if they learned the lessons, they would have been able to pass down something to their children. What relationships look like, on how you can handle being in love with someone but being angry with them, and how that's okay.
Like, it was all a facade.
It was all a facade.
It was
because
all a dream.
It really is a dream. Because the rage isn't even real rage.
It's not real rage. And that's what I was talking about, like splitting, them being splintered.
It's more control, if anything.
It is control. It's not the true emotion in its purest form. Because when rage and anger is actually called for, when they are at work, they're suddenly quiet. They can't stand up for themselves.
That's true.
Like, you see them being all macho in the house, but when they go outside,
somebody may have. If somebody does something to them,
they keep quiet.
they keep quiet.
They're saying to their boss, yes, and massa, essentially. And then they come into the house and they take it out on them.
Because if it's someone that can defend themselves, if I was courageous enough to fight my dad when I was a kid, all of this that I'm unlearning, standing up for myself, advocating for my needs, I would have been able to settle that. Whereas now as an adult, I need to constantly remind myself that I have privilege and access to my power. Like, baseline is there. It's there to be used, it's there to be wielded, it's there to be used skillfully in confrontation, in having my needs be met, in understanding the collective needs and having that be met, in having discussions and dialogue with elders. I would have had more practice. I feel like we're still at the early and mid stages of development.
That's what happens in that late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, right? I went through that. It's been like a 12-year process of becoming. I turned 40 this year, and I feel finally in the last few years a becoming, settling in, an integration. Because when I look at rage in its purest form, in its true form, and anger, rage, I'm using those terms interchangeably in this context. I'm talking about the thing that comes up in you when a wrong has been done.
Wow.
To you, to others, to creatures, to the earth. That thing that comes up within you, that emotion that moves you to seek justice, that is righteous.
Yes.
That is to be named, that is to be wielded skillfully in the pursuit of justice for self and others. We, like, in the process of becoming and unlearning all these like fake obedience driven, control driven things we've been taught. It is important to recognize that just because someone bastardized a thing for their own gain does not mean that the thing itself is wrong. And just because we learned a lot of those methodologies and were punitive to ourselves and to people we were in relationships with or people we are in relationships with, does not mean it needs to keep going that way. And it also doesn't mean that anger in and of itself is wrong, because it's just an emotion and it's information. It's telling us something is not right here. Something is off. Let me investigate it. Sometimes if you've had trauma, it could also be something is off, but as it relates to something that happened to you in the past and not what is going on currently. Even that is information. Even that is not something we should run away from. You know, what people call being triggered. It's information. And so when we're able to recognize the ways we've been taught anger and rage is not it, then what is it? How do we talk about this more openly if we're still wielding it in ways that are not righteous?
Yeah.
If we're still harming ourselves or harming others because we haven't mastered it. So my question to you is, how has anger and rage shown up in your adult relationships?
So for me, it tends to show up whenever I feel that I haven't said my truth and everything just assumes that they know my mind or my truth. Sometimes it shows up for me if I'm not able to say exactly how I felt in a conflict, like what actually hurt me, what was coming up for me, and the assumption that I'm being mean-spirited. It's hard for me to defend myself. And when I feel as though like I'm being made out to be a bad person, for me, rage comes up in either fighting back, saying exactly what I truly felt, however unskilled, however untamed it looks like, and then spending some time digging deep inside and seeing what was painful here. If anything like that comes up for me, I feel it in my body. It feels like I've been just forgotten.
Yeah.
And where I've been able to vent my rage is through music, like listening to very loud, heavy metal music to just scream and say my thoughts, however crazy it feels, and then have it pass. So it doesn't feel like I'm harming the person or harming you. Because when that pain comes, it's not always the person that I am in conflict with that it's happening. It's sometimes coming from what I've dealt with my dad or with my mom, and not being able to speak up for myself. Growing up, I dressed up very boyish, and my mom would ask me, "Do you even like boys? Are you a lesbian?" And I would say no, right? I was so angry at how I had to fake perform this reality that I didn't sign up for, but then having to still perform it because I'm under the care of my parents, and I didn't want anything to cause a rift. But my anger was directed at me because I didn't stand up for myself. I don't know if I could trust myself. And then I would be in relationships with people or in friendships with people, and I'm not my truest self. And I would attack myself for it because I kept performing being liked or kept performing being hetero.
Yeah.
So anything that feels like the reality that's looking at me is not true to who I am, that's when I get really angry and I feel like I have to say something, speak up about it. Sometimes how race will show up for me on the other flip side is that I suppress until I build this heavy resentment at myself and at the reality that's continuing to exist without me, without my authentic self. I dealt with a lot of that in my 20s, and now I'm uncovering all that suppressed self and realizing that I never took time to build a relationship with the part of me that was showing up authentically and have true feelings about how I'm interacting with someone, have my true feelings be known to myself, and then act on it. So this season has been, let me courageously say that thing that's uncomfortable to my parents and see how they respond.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people, they neglect doing that work with their original bullies.
Yeah, I've realized that I've needed to do that when I'm in a relationship with someone. You're a really good mirror for me. I now have moments where I need to check in with myself. I'm checking in with myself for myself. I'm checking in with myself with you. I'm also checking, is there congruency in everything? Is my relationship with my parents still based on a lie?
Yeah,
And
and
is
transference
there
happening.
transference
Are you
happening?
transferring
Yeah.
the angst that you have towards them to your partner, to your friends, to your relationship? It's almost like we say this: that relationship is fucked beyond
dumb.
measure. We can never fix it, so we're not even going to try. They're never going to change.
But we're going to go out
They're-
into the world and try to fix that.
We're gonna try and fix the other person. We're gonna put it on the other person. It's almost like we find perfection in the imperfection.
Which is the lie that we're selling to ourselves so that we don't address the true crime.
So do you know how I realized that this was a thing that existed? I'm gonna bring it back to like my relationship with rage as a teenager and how it differs from how you express your rage in your relationship. Mine has always been outward.
I applaud you with that because I was so afraid to
No, but that's the thing,
because I was
though.
risking getting kicked out.
No, I got kicked out many times, but I will say the privilege I had in growing up in Africa is that when I got kicked out of the house, the neighbor brought me home. Uncle over there will come to my mom, girl, what are you doing? So that happened. And I think in America, it will be a little harder to do that. Our compound was open. People could just bring me back home. People could intercede on my behalf. I have always been able to express my rage outwardly. It came with severe consequences. Physical beatings were irregular in my childhood. But I knew that fighting back was the only thing that was keeping me alive. And even when I didn't know it cognitively, my chi knew it. Like, my chi fights for me, whether I consent or not. It literally just steps out on my behalf and says, oh, we're throwing hands. So you envy me, but here's the thing. I didn't know when to stop throwing hands. I took that shit all the way into my 20s, into my early 30s. I was ready to throw hands. If I felt wronged, my favorite thing to say is, I'm not going to start nothing, but I will finish it. I generally don't start things unless, now that I feel safer in a relationship, I do be starting some stuff sometimes. But how it used to be is like, I didn't start things. I just stayed because I was so scared of my rage, because of the way I expressed anger. I sat on it until someone came and poked at me. And that's why it seemed like I didn't start shit. But if you come and poke at me or you come and do something that I know that is absolutely not okay, then let's go. You started it, let's go. It's almost like I had been waiting for it to happen. I didn't have trust. I was waiting to be wronged. And because a part of my CPTSD symptoms is hypervigilance, and I can notice a slight shift in atmospheric pressure or energy with anyone I'm in a relationship with. Because I was so hyper vigilant. So low-key, I didn't start stuff, but I was watching for stuff to start. And maybe sometimes when I thought people were starting things, they weren't really. They had just had a bad day. So yeah, the relationships I was in my 20s and early 30s was very tumultuous. I caused harm because I was responding to harm. I didn't have that ability to say to myself, okay, that person is hurting you. You have an option to either find a way to repair this, bring it to their attention, and have them make amends, or you can leave. Because I didn't believe in leaving. So it was just fighting for it. I fought when I should have just had the cognizance to leave. But I'm not even mad about that because the process to becoming is the process to becoming. And it is going to take what it takes. So that's what rage showed up for me. And then outside, when a random white person would touch my hair, I would be seething. I wouldn't express it to them. And every time I would look back and I'm like, but why didn't you say something? So it's very reminiscent of our parents. Where in the house, we were ready to fight for our honor and our dignity, but outside, it was not congruent. Yeah. I recognized that about myself. And so in the last decade of doing this work, of coming home, I have gotten to a place where I'm no longer ready to fight the world. I want to ask, I want to be curious, but I still tuck my anger and my rage as a warm companion, as the first alarm that something unjust is happening and I need to speak up. But now the way I speak up is radically different from how I used to speak up. I will still bust it out from time to time, but I'm learning to be more balanced in my approach and have the ability to walk away.
Yeah. So in my family, I just kept silent. It didn't mean that I wasn't hurt or that I didn't have anger. I just learned to compartmentalize it and just bottle it up. I would avoid talking to my parents or interacting with them. I would just show up when I was needed and show myself out when I was done. This helped me build my true sense of self without any interruption. Because I didn't like having their voice in my ear about when am I going to get married or who's this person, are they your friend? I just didn't want them to ask any questions. I performed well in school, the best that I could. I got into that engineering program. I got those scholarships. I got into that church that I wasn't supposed to on campus. I started dating this American boy,
That you were
which
not supposed
I was not supposed to date because I was trying to be a good Christian and like trying to be just good. There came a point where I cracked like myself open and I realized that this charade can't go on for too long. Interestingly, everything that cracks me open tends to be a really rich and beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
It's somebody that sees me and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? This is not who you are. This is not who you say you are. Pretending that you're not queer out here, that you're not a lesbian, that you're not dating a woman, that you're not doing this. You need to get your shit together. And those will be the moments that I'll put a little fire in my ass to actually like, okay, you do need to speak up. I honestly think that's why it's necessary to healing community because it does let you get clear and more truthful and honest in time while you're still alive and not waiting for some coming to happen for you to like, okay, everyone, this is who I've always been. And there's this like opening theatrical performance. No, it's like the everyday bumpy conversations. It's me sitting my parents down and telling them, I'm a lesbian, and them freaking the fuck out. Yeah. They wanted to send me to hell. My dad started crying. My mother was like, what have I done? I have raised a lesbian. How will you give me grandchildren? What is all this? Is this what I sent you to school for? I carried you myself for 9 months. I did all these things, and is this how you're supposed to repay me? I'm just like, well, I'm not in jail. I'm not pregnant. I have an engineering degree. I am very, like, you should be proud. Like, most of your mates don't have all this to brag about. Just because of this little lesbian thing, you want to throw me away? Fine. They almost threw me away. They wanted to convert me and do all these things. I basically said, no, we're not going to do this.
Yes.
I am going to be growing my facial hair. I know it makes me look like I'm not your daughter, but you raised this.
Yeah.
I'm becoming the parts of you that you've hidden for so many
Yes.
years and you've lied to us
You're
about.
being integrated.
Essentially, however much discomfort is coming from you, it's probably time for you to stop running away from your own shit and to deal with it. And now it's not just me that's talking about it. All my sisters are talking about it. My brother, he's still catching up. I feel like men take so much fucking time to deal with their emotions. And girls just be out here
Patriarchy,
like,
baby.
yeah, it's at their expense.
Yeah.
Like they're not working on anything, which is so sad. Anyway,
Yeah.
it took me, yes, in my 30s, I came to realize that our parents had us in their early 20s. So they were
Girl,
still
when you
children.
think about
so they're not
that.
even like a full adult, not even finished their childhood, and they're now a parent. So they're just BSing everything.
Yeah.
They're trying, they're fixing it, they're correcting, they're making mistakes. They're so ashamed of their mistakes.
Yeah.
They want to make sure everyone knows that it's perfect and it's great up here and it's not.
It's
And-
like they have told themselves this lie,
Yes.
and they have to keep doing this work to keep up that lie.
And in my adult,
That
I was like,
appearance that everything is okay, that
I
they're
am
the
not
all-knowing, all-seeing, all-wise benefactors of us. And I'm just like, dude, you had me
Yeah.
when you were 25.
22,
You
23.
knew nothing.
25.
So I am going to treat you as a human being, and I think that's what anger allows us access
I will
to.
agree. Yes, that's what anger allowed me access to.
Yeah.
I was able to ask them, why didn't you stand up for me? When I realized that the reasons I don't know how to stand up for myself is because my parents did not know how to stand up for me when I needed them. And they were playing the whole, did that really happen? Don't let it affect you.
Yeah.
Which they can't take that same advice for themselves because everything that happened to them is they just
When
carried
I
it
was
on.
your age, I was 7 and I was somebody's 7th, and I had to walk 10 miles.
And they're still recounting that thing in their adults.
But when
to their
you
adult children. But when I recount something that happened 10 years ago, you're saying don't carry it.
Yeah.
But yeah, look at you. No, I honestly, using anger to buck back is really a defense. Also, it's like a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
Because what are they going to say? They're just going to have their feelings. They'll
Yeah.
have their feelings, they'll have their feelings, and it's not going to kill them.
It's not gonna kill
Once they
anybody.
have the feelings, it'll settle into their makeup.
Yeah.
And then
And that is what it looks like to individuate in relationships, especially if you're raised in collectivism or if you were raised under religious indoctrination or patriarchy or these systems of oppression. Individuating as a queer person, as women, as African people, to say that this is who I am at my core. I am a justice loving person, and I will stand up for all injustices everywhere, starting from here, starting from mine. And as I fight for myself, I fight for you. I fight for your lineage.
Yes.
I fight for all of us.
You
I
fight
fight for
because you
people
love them.
who came before us.
Absolutely.
The people who had to endure whiteness and colonialism. The people who were stolen from our land.
Absolutely.
I fight for them. Isn't it a bunch of Igbos who chained themselves and drowned themselves rather than be taken into slavery? We are their descendants. So what are we even talking about?
Yeah.
What are we performing? Because we embark on this journey and this fight, every other relationship we have thrives.
will thrive.
It's based on truth. It's
Yeah.
based on honesty.
I was
It's
able to
based
repair
on
my relationship with my older sister when I came out, which I didn't know that was going to happen. I
Yeah.
learned that I was done talking to her for the rest of my
And look at me and my mom. It's taken us 10 years. And that's the other thing. People, this stuff takes a long time. And the
does.
patience be lacking because we want to fix it. And if it's not looking like it's fixable right now, then let's move on from it. Let's go no contact. Let's just keep performing a relationship with them that is not based on truth.
Yeah.
But it takes a long time because we're rewiring neural pathways. It takes us a long time. It will take them a long time.
Yeah.
But what we don't practice, we never learn. And what we do practice is what gets stronger. So if we keep practicing a relationship based on a lie, that's what we're reinforcing.
Yes.
That's literally the neural pathways we're making stronger.
Yeah.
So it's a choice, and it's uncomfortable, and it's outright painful. The pain gonna pain either way. So it's like, what pain are you choosing?
Yeah, what's the true pain you want to live
Yeah.
so that you can actually learn something?
And come out relating from a place
Honest.
of deep honesty.
Yes, with yourself, with the people around you.
And so, yeah, if you're in the Bay Area, this is the theme of the gathering we're having on June 21st. We are talking about love and rage. What does it look like to show up in our relationships from a place of deep authenticity, from a place of honoring our inner knowing? How are we able to confront the places in our lives that we are performing?
Yeah.
So if you're in the Bay Area, tickets are available for purchase now. You can find the link in the description. It's only 8 people. It's intimate. We're going to feed you.
I'm going to make delicious herbaceous cocktails to just
help ground
hold
us.
the conversation.
Yes.
And enjoy it.
We would love to have you. It's in our home. Before we leave, what is one thing you're still unlearning about love or rage, and how they intersect with each other? And what is the one thing you've reclaimed that you never want to give up again? And what do you want listeners to remember when they feel rage rise?
Okay, I am unlearning that hurting someone does not make you irreparable or just deem you like discardable. It just hurts.
I like that word, discardable.
Yeah. Because I think people have a lot of shame when they cause someone else pain and they
Yeah.
just don't want to see themselves and they can't do it. So like the personal discarding happens.
Yeah.
But it
Is that
doesn't-
what
it's-
happens
it's
for
the
you?
unlearning. Yeah. Like my brain goes, good, okay.
It means you're a bad person.
Yeah, it just goes right there.
Yeah.
And my brain is trying to buffer, just going straight there and saying, wow, that does hurt. And I do feel bad. And I am feeling bad, but I'm not a bad person. I'm trying to identify less with being a bad person.
Yeah.
Just, I did a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I'm human.
Yeah.
And I can ask for repair. I can ask to be accommodated while I'm going through this mood or this episode, and just invite myself back in. So that's part of in the love part. Then in the rage part is to like suppress less. I need to just get it out. I need to stop doing the whole clock that or like, get them back. I need to stop doing that because I do that a lot. And I think that was my strategy to get back on my parents. But then I
Yeah.
never actually got back to them. It actually was just me calling them to the side, sitting them down and just telling them the truth. There was no getting back. So that was the hard part because I feel like the other part seemed easy. Like I'm just planning all these things and I never executed any of them.
Yeah.
So hold less rage in, get it out when I feel it, and then let it pass. Because it came to do the service. It's not staying for a long time.
Yeah.
It's always there when you need it.
Yeah.
And then just usher it back in.
Yeah. Got it. And then what do you want listeners to remember?
I do want listeners to remember that their inherent goodness doesn't just go away like ever. You're just good baseline. No one takes away your worth. No one takes anything away from you.
Not even you.
Not even you. You
Yeah.
can't. So just keep reminding yourself that you are worth like the investment, worth the time, the patience to learn the new things that your
Yeah.
body just feels like, I'm done with my life because I'm an adult and I've known everything. You know nothing. Especially in the 20s, in the, like all the 20s, you don't know anything.
Early 30s to mid 30s,
yeah.
solidly too.
Sure.
I
That's
swear to
if you
God.
didn't realize you didn't know anything in your 20s. If you think you knew something in your 20s and you entered your 30s, that's going to make it longer.
Yeah.
So just realize if you're in your 20s, you don't know anything, enjoy all of your experiences, learn something skillful, and in your 30s, try to just spend time building relationships that are true and that matter and that have gone through some real stuff. Because it helps build your character, it helps ground you, it helps you notice the BS and notice the true relationship.
For me, I am still unlearning hypervigilance.
Can you unlearn that?
Yes, I think so. I think the way I unlearn hypervigilance is to check in. As in, when I feel it, instead of assume that I'm correct, I check in to say, I'm feeling like you're mad at me, you're probably not, but I want to check in about it. What's my favorite thing to ask you? Whether things are good, bad, ugly. Are you okay? Are you okay? Is everything okay? Is everything okay? You'll be smiling. I'm like, is everything okay? Sometimes it don't be okay. Also learn, that's another coping. I've learned to smile and chuckle even when it's not okay. I'm still unlearning hypervigilance, especially when the first thing it moves me towards is anger. I guess I'm learning that to immediately see what is underneath the anger. It's getting easier to identify that for me, most times it's fear. I'm really scared of not being lovable, of not being worthy, someone I love being not pleased with me. So that's still in the works at my ripe age of 40 years old. And I'm learning to wield my rage more righteously outside of the home. I'm learning that thing that was passed on to me, that you can only show that you're angry with the people you love and not strangers on the internet. So if you see me cussing out people on the internet, know that it's a part of my becoming, okay? I just want y'all to remember that if your first place of harm and abuse was in your family of origin and you're still in contact with them in any form at all, address that shit with them. If your well-being, your livelihood does not depend on them, take the risk to tell them that you will no longer pretend to be who you're not. Take the risk to show up as yourself at the family dinner. Take the risk because it will positively impact every other relationship you have. The way we show up authentically in our relationships that are not familial is affected by how we show up in our familial relationships. We think we can compartmentalize and just treat them differently. And to some extent we can, but I find that the greatest depth I've ever felt in my romantic relationships come from a place of strength that has been built upon making my mom face me, the truth of me.
I don't like that.
And on that note, we're done.
Like that.
Okay. Stay tuned. We're going to keep showing up here. Keep listening.
Thanks for listening to Rich Queer Aunties. If this moved something in you, share it with someone you love. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or slide into our DMs with your reflections.
You can find us on Instagram and everywhere on social media. Rich Queer Aunties, Christabel Minta Galloway, King Kachi. Thank you for being with us.